Hello and welcome back to Life's Biggest Questions, the channel that looks to answer exactly those. I'm Rebecca Felgate, and today we are asking the difficult question of should we ban zoos? I remember the wonder and joy at visiting my first zoo. As a child, seeing a tiger, an elephant, a python, a giraffe, it all contributed to my wonder, love and respect of animals that I feel today. But the deaths of Tilikum the orca in 2017, the much publicized loss of Harambe in 2016, and the euthanasia of healthy giraffe Marius in Copenhagen Zoo in 2014 don't exactly paint these supposed animal-loving institutions in the greatest light. So, all things considered, the good, the bad, and the ugly truths, do we need to get rid of zoos altogether? First off, let's have a look at the good work and positive impact of zoos. As I mentioned, as a child, zoos were a fun and eye-opening place for me. Of course, this was before I had a grasp on animal cruelty, but that aside, it is a great way for children to learn about species out there in the world. It is an opportunity for children and adults alike to actually experience these species firsthand, which, if zoos didn't exist, would be a privilege saved only for kids with parents who could afford to take them on culturally rich holidays to other lands. That said, at what cost does this supposed education of the animals come? Is our desire to learn worth more than the animal's right to be free? Does this education really even exist in a tangible way? A CAPS study of British zoos and aquariums found that 41% of the animals on display in captivity had no signs identifying their species, which is insane. In these cases, perhaps a documentary or even a series of YouTube videos could teach the child more about the animal than the zoo without a sign. Okay, some zoos may be failing in the education department, but this does not apply to all, who perhaps shouldn't be tarnished with the same brush. Many zoos and aquariums are funding conservation efforts, which is actively trying to protect endangered species such as the northern white rhino and of course the endangered giant pandas. One zoo very involved in breeding within captivity is Smithsonian's National Zoo in Washington, which has recently seen the birth of a giant panda. Some argue without the intervention of zoos, some animal species would die out. Although, are they really helping? Are they creating a false sense of species that are actually unfit for the wild? Of the 300-odd pandas bred in captivity, only 5 have been released into the wild, 2 of which died within a year. While conservation is excellent in theory, a 2013 study led by Dr. Paul O'Donoghue, a conservation geneticist, says that actually less than 1% of zoo species are part of any serious conservation effort, and indeed, those that are involved in conservation are mostly just encouraging inbreeding. It is clear that zoos and aquariums can do more. Sea Life, for example, spends only 3 pennies per pound per visitor on conservation. If education and conservation are seen to be the key points in the argument for the existence of zoos, what are the counter-arguments? Well, first and foremost, zoos are unnatural. In order to thrive, animals need a natural habitat. In the wild, animals have around 18,000 times more space than in captivity. Living in a zoo greatly decreases the animal's lifespan. Elephants are said to live 50% of their usual life expectancy in captivity, with most of them developing walking issues and around half showing signs of behavioral problems. Tilikum, the orca at the center of the Blackfish documentary, died aged 35 at SeaWorld in Florida. In the wild, he should have in theory lived to around 50 or 60 years old. It is easy to disassociate animals from our perception of what is right and what is wrong, but I would ask you, how would you feel if you were given a pretend house, much smaller than the one you could live in under ordinary circumstances, and were fed in front of a crowd of people? It would be like turning prisons into tourist attractions. This of course brings us to animal behavior. There are no two ways about it, animals in captivity are stressed. Lions spend 48% of their time pacing in captivity, which is just not normal. Many animals, perhaps most drastically the polar bear, show strange ritualistic behavior in captivity, such as head bobbing or walking into walls. Animal behavioral psychologist Dr. Vint Verga recognizes these behaviors to be indicative of psychological damage. Of course, animals in captivity can also be aggressive, leading us to question whether it is even safe to have these huge animals so close to humans anyway. Since the release of Blackfish, most people know that Tilikum, with his defeated floppy Finn was involved in the death of 3 of his trainers, and he isn't the only animal to have struck. In fact, sadly, he is one of many. This is perhaps why zookeepers were so quick to shoot Harambe when a child fell into the gorilla enclosure in the Cincinnati Zoo. Of course, the danger posed to civilians is nothing compared to the danger and threat posed to healthy zoo animals. Shockingly, the number of healthy animals killed by zoos each year is between 3,000 and 5,000. This is according to the European Association of Zoos and Aquaria. This is exactly what happened to Marius, the Danish giraffe, who was culled because of its insufficient gene pool for breeding. In South Lakes Wild Animal Park in Cumbria, UK, the past few years have seen 7 healthy lion cubs and 5 young baboons euthanized because there was simply not enough space for them. Some zoos are simply awful and poorly run. Others are at least trying to make a positive change towards the life of animals, taking in only genuinely endangered species, as well as stopping the enclosure of showstopper animals. Even SeaWorld seemed to have wisened up to the level of animal cruelty they endorsed. They announced last year that their current generation of orcas will be their last, and that they will phase out all orca shows by 2019. But are these positive steps enough? Should we ban zoos? Well, ask yourself this: is it okay to capture animals for our own entertainment? Is the cost of animal lives, natural habitat, and psychological welfare worth it just so your child can see a tiger roam over a moat of water in the distance? Are conservationists protecting and creating more animal lives than are being taken by carelessness and culling? The answer is inconvenient and perhaps painful to some, but zoos as we know them should be banned. Perhaps there is room for more ethical animal centers where animals are looked after out of need rather than spectacle. If an animal center could provide a better environment for its residents than in the wild, then it wouldn't even be a problem. If children and adults alike were able to learn from animals in those kinds of environments, there really wouldn't be an issue. But right now, there are several big issues. Perhaps the rest of the world needs to learn from Costa Rica's example and start dismantling zoos, instead focusing on sanctuaries where animals that need to be taken care of can receive care. So there we have it, a big question answered. Do you agree that zoos as we know them should be banned? Let me know in the comment section down below. For now, I'm Rebecca Felgate. This has been Life's Biggest Questions. Please do give this video a thumbs up, share it with a friend, and subscribe to our channel. For now, stay curious, stay alert, and remember to never, ever, ever stop questioning.